Alrighty, we only actually have one match for today, but anyway. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Asuka here. I'm going to be bringing to you the 6th day of the scoring phase for the House Legion League. And we have SVS versus TNK on the Whiteout Court. I do think TNK probably would be the stronger team. SVS just getting completely bodied yesterday by BODS could show some skill here against TNK. Again, TNK is similarly middle of the rank. I definitely think they'll have a hard time with ECL, but could give them a run for their money. Did lose to BLK, though did make a big mistake there on the field battle. I wouldn't be surprised if this does come down to another field battle, but nevertheless, later tonight we also have DVD versus OPC. We have seen DVD before, probably in the lower ranks of teams, I would say. Haven't seen OPC before, so we'll get to have a good look there. The other match for tonight is OMG and CCT. That is in the second later half, but we only have one battle right now. So, good luck to everybody. I hope we get to see a good match, and I hope to see something new. It should be more interesting as things I hope it becomes more interesting as we get to see teams discover and experiment with strategy, their units, their artillery placements, especially since we're kind of on the live server. We're seeing things that we've never seen before, and it's just a big change up from the CVL. Well, we have about 2 minutes before the start of the battle, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of housekeeping, as I do some of go look at my exports here. Make sure I keep up with those at the same time. Well, SVS is one player down for now. Hopefully they get their last player soon. Does look like we have a full set of 6 viewers. The rest of them should be using the playback system, which should be going pretty well. schedule this. What was interesting today is that on Discord, the letter said that the developers might actually look into the balancing of the Onion cavalry. I do think it's kind of sad that people that have been complaining about it, just not significantly enough, and it's pretty atrocious, I would say, that the general consensus of the vocal minority might not be reflective of the wider community, but they should definitely. Oh, I mean, like, I definitely think that there needs to be more feedback from the developers saying what they're looking into, and definitely what could, or what community feedback could change things, because it's very disappointing to see that a lot of the suggestions just kind of just fall by the wayside, and even if they do read it, it's very hard to gauge to get that engagement that your idea was just unaccepted. Like, just even rejecting those ideas would be super helpful, especially for everyone that would put ideas down. I do think that I do a lot of complaining, but I don't want the developers to listen to me all the time. Sometimes I can make some really stupid suggestions, and I just hope that CB becomes better. And I mean, like, everyone wants their best game. I mean, I love this game, and I do hope this game becomes better, and that's just how I think everyone feels when they play a game. They want it to be better, get better, and be more enjoyable. But how you do that also depends on the community itself. Sometimes I definitely know that there can be a very vocal minority that controls the balance of the game, and that can be very terrifying for casual players that just want to have fun. But I also want to say it's just, if you don't give them that feedback, sometimes they just keep going and don't understand why people just don't like the game anymore. I've been trying to tell them. I don't think a lot of people support me in my idea, even though they might agree with me. They don't support the suggestions. So I definitely think that if you guys think that CB is going in the wrong direction, or you think you like their direction, do tell them. Positive feedback as well as negative feedback is always great. Criticism, negative feedback, just negativity just because of negativity is no fun. It doesn't help anyone. But if you got, I mean, like, sometimes negative feedback can work. Gotta really work for figuring out why the negative feedback works though. But it's a two-way street. Major communications from both sides of the player and the developers. You need to make your voices heard. You need to definitely tell the developers that you want to change. Suggestion, flood the... I mean, like, they have a whole system. They got... Oh. Ooh, looks like they agreed to a 14v15. That's unfortunate. I do think a 14v15 is a uphill battle, and it's going to be doubly so considering that it is attacker SVS is the 14 and they are attacking. Not one to shy away from a challenge, but I do think SVS is the underdog here. Not really going to be, how to say, I don't think they're going to be the ones to put pressure on TNK without a full roster. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I definitely think that TNK can easily manhandle SVS just on the battles I have seen. But we're going to have to wait and see if it comes to fruition. Generally so, we still got a lot of Fortibraccios. Again, the camels are coming back in, which is very interesting. And Fortibraccios, not very many cavalry as I expected out from TNK, because I would say a good section of it is still cavalry. Cavalry for both sides is quite high percentage, um, quite high percentage of like leadership. Tier 5 cavalry is kind of interesting, mainly because um, the setup could lead to more difficulties. I do think that if you're lucky, you can get a setup of quadruple tier 4, but I think that is a super minority of people that can pull something like that off. Uh, but nevertheless, SVS, I wish you luck. This is going to be a difficult battle. External house, internal house, Legion League. Yeah, this is the House Legion League. Technically, I'm not sure if it's separate from the CBL, which is the setting that I've mostly been in, since that has been on the tournament server. So we've gotten something in the middle, in the meantime, which is the House Legion League, which is on the live server. And I'm not entirely sure, or I mean like, I'm not entirely on board with the changes that's happened comparative to the CBL. So already off to a very strange start. SVS is kind of trying to open up their entire wall here, which is a good strategy, I think. Any artilleries that TNK wastes to destroy the siege towers would definitely be beneficial. I'm just wondering if they will destroy the left-hand wall and the right-hand wall. Doesn't look like they're working on it. Well, it does look like the right-hand side is being worked on. Siege towers should get onto the wall fairly easily. There's really no question of if they would make it there. But this is absolutely brutal. How many? Wow, I didn't realize how many they killed, but they killed 8 Liaos. 8 Liaos, that's half a unit. That's really valuable. And taken out by the beginning ballistas. Again, never underestimate some of the artilleries that are placed here. They can really give you a hard time and definitely give you a massive headache. I never think, ballistas are kind of like the first thing anyone goes for, even if the cannons can shoot back at the other artillery emplacement. Nothing is more painful than watching your units get ballisted. And I mean, there are units now that can survive a ballista shot, but if they die, they're dead. So I definitely do think that ballistas should stay one-shot kills. I definitely do think that power should be omnipresent. because ballistas are kind of worthless if they don't just one-shot. Different from culverins, which are classically great for destroying artillery and can hit more than 2. Since it does say it does pierce 2, it's guaranteed to hit 2, but it can hit more than that, especially if they're super bunched up. One time I had my... oh no, I either killed someone's, or maybe in both situations. I had my entire, or most of my patties get killed by a single culverin shot, and I killed half of a patties with a single culverin shot. And it is devastating, I will say, to have half your unit just get clocked out like that. So this is quite interesting how the setup goes. Again, changing grenadiers will do... whoa! We got some nasty grape shots there. In this case, the funny thing is that grape shots are less effective the closer you are, because they will overkill. So shoving units into a grape shot is actually a really smart thing to do. Not to mention, it makes it extraordinarily more dangerous for the user to use it. Unfortunately, those monks were clocked out really fast. I thought those monks would change the tide, but that was a negative. The Imperial Spear Guard does seem to just survive that onslaught. Not too surprising. The Shield Maidens plus the Imperial Spear Guard probably soaked up enough of the damage between themselves, surprisingly. Again, monks have a high hit limit, and the hard thing to do is actually surviving the amount of damage they output, especially if you have low number of units. So you either have to have tankiness of 6 units in one. Berserker's nowhere near and will not even be able to do that, or you have 6 times the number of units facing them, and that's kind of overkill. But I mean, more damage versus, as long as you can out damage the monks, that's pretty much how it goes. SVS is taking a really hard battle here, but I do think the defenders are kind of overstretching themselves. Can get some really good shots with this siege ballista though. A bit of a waste, I would say, watching units just walk through. I do think if they take a battle, they should be surprised. They should be surprised by the ballista if they peek their head. So definitely wouldn't use the siege ballista without waiting for them to take the bait. But no reinforcements coming through though, so I definitely do think, oh, this could be... whoa! He tried and he failed. Very unfortunate there. I don't think, oh, here comes some Liaos. Not enough Forbracios to stop them. Not enough Forbracios to deal the damage. Not enough Forbracios to survive the damage. Siege Ballista does get destroyed. Liaos just barrel their way through that token amount of force. And in the meantime, SVS does head towards the back section. Control of the back section is very interesting, and they didn't destroy this barricade, which is quite... which is different. Very different. That barricade not being open does make it harder for them to get around, and could see a complete cycle. Where are they going? Where will they... They're kind of training, so there's an entire trail of units just going towards that section. We got some... yep, we got some guys getting caught out here. Daggerak Lancers will trample them? Question mark? Oh, there goes a charge straight through the center. Does look like Shield Maidens are just tank enough to survive the attack and able to kill the Daggerak Lancers. So the Shield Maidens are kind of like a half-half. As long as they're not overwhelmed, they can deal with a couple of stragglers. I think a Shield Maiden can easily deal with around about 8 models from a Daggerak Lancer and kill it fairly easily. But when it starts getting into the entire unit, you might see some difficulties. Wow, spawned on the top of them. We have some Liaos just barrel right through some Men-at-Arms. Men-at-Arms out on the field, but the Quarter Rushers do take them out eventually, so big spawn in from the back there. Spawn from the right, from the front. Both sides taking some L's, but surprisingly quite even. So SVS is doing very well for himself, being only 14 v 15. But they got to get a move on because they got to get towards that A point. So I do think they are definitely using more artillery than as the battle goes on. TNK has used quite a few. Let's see if they all in it for the A point. I do think that it would be wise for TNK to go all in for the A point, considering of their position. Keeping the very silly breakthrough. I don't know why you would put Shenji that close, except when you're trying to hide them. And Imperial Spear Guards straight into the Port Russia. Probably not the smartest idea. Port Russia is in a nice dispersed formation. Camels right into the front. Will take a while for the pikes to kill, but they are the only thing tanking damage, so can't really bust their way through. We got some Imperial Spear Guards finally making their way through the center, but since it will be concentrated, you'll need some other units on the side. We got a lot of Port Russia being pulled through. It does look like finally reinforcements respawn, but mass cavalry should send all of these Imperial Spear Guards down for the count. Surprisingly though, the big piles are surviving for the most part, and actually able to kill the cavalry quite easily. The problem is that the amount of damage that they take. They did seem to take quite a bit of damage, and the back line is struggling. Looks like reinforcements from SVS does rock up, but massive respawn here keeps this intersection quite in favor of the defenders. But all in all, the defenders actually lost more units than the attackers in that exchange, which was very impressive from SVS. SVS probably drew the short end of the stick and definitely got faced against a team that was way too strong, but right against the TNK, it does look like they're doing much better. TNK not really great on the front confrontation, and definitely losing in areas where they should focus on winning. But a lot of time has been burnt, so I don't think everything is lost. But the unit deficit, the unit difference, I'm gonna have to reevaluate how strong I think SVS is. Definitely think that TNK is underestimating SVS. Or overestimating themselves. Now heading on to the base point here. SVS takes an aggressive approach. Definitely don't want to get stuck in that hallway again. Some interesting ICAP spearmen. Not a unit I would choose. A good formation, but unfortunately the Yanyanao cavalry just kind of blitzed that, but you really should have had the shield maiden just rock up through and then blitzed it with the Yanyanao cavalry secondly. It's kind of silly that you would send in the cavalry first, considering that they are glass cannons. Send in the infantry first, get the infantry engaged, then send in the cavalry. That way, cavalry are safer and can contact the enemy instantly. Much more difficult to handle this infantry into cavalry approach. But then again, coming in from different directions is way more effective than going to the front. This flamer is probably the only thing that's allowing the defenders hold this point right now. That and the Imperial Spear Guard. We got some camels rocking on through. Camels could easily be taken out by the flames, though the flames are retreating slowly, ever so slowly, as lots of artillery just being deployed and mincing the infantry coming out from the defenders. TNK taking the L here against a team of 14. I mean, like, I wouldn't, I would definitely think that the difference of a player would be massive, but definitely showing me up here. SVS, way to go. I don't think they will take this, even if they do get pushed out here eventually. Mainly from the fact that I think some guys might actually be clocking on to permadeath. Or at least for their third death, at the very least. TNK is trickling in as well. So that's the real struggle.
Child's play.
3 guys just instantly clocked out from TNK here. Point does look to be solidly in SVS's corner. Very interesting performance. A little bit unorthodox, I would say. This is quite a better right-hand strategy that I've seen. Getting into the back, holding it, approaching, a little bit of spawn camping. Again, the attackers can make use of that. Defenders do have an option of spawn, I think. Either spawn at the base or spawn at the final point. Not entirely sure if that's true. But I do think it will be more and more difficult for the defenders to have the enemy just sitting there in the back line and having a couple of guys just die off. So could have been some early advantages there, getting off some easy kills, especially against a single player. We got a couple of permadeath there at the end. We got 1, 2, 3 permadeath from TNK. And I'm not sure, man. I do think that TNK having an extra player means that they can muscle out SVS, but I think the lack of commitment for the final point was shown to be a massive weakness. TNK also trickling in one at a time. Not a very good showing of this of their teamwork. Alrighty. I definitely do hope that TNK step up their game. It would be quite embarrassing to get defeated. By 14v15. But they did! So there's that. It could just be the massive skill difference as well. I'm gonna be real. The whole battle of BODS versus SVS was such a wash that it's just those matches where it's very hard to tell what kind of skill level people are at. And this is the point of where long form round robins are really good, because you get a little bit of weeding out of the weaklings, because definitely those that can't perform will score lower. Unfortunately, because they are grouped, you also still have that possibility of accidentally knocking out some of the stronger players. And when there's you can have some stacked groups for sure. I remember, I think 3 of the top 8 were placed in a single group, and like it was not 3 of the top 8. It was like it was more than 3, but like it was like only 2 people from each group would have went into the main tournament, and it was just like really difficult for each of the teams to get in. And from that group alone, it's just like it was pretty much guaranteed that one of the winners was from there. Or sometimes you get teams who get really weak really weak groups that just breeze on through into the main tournament and just gets completely annihilated. And that's what you don't want to see happen in the knockout phase. You definitely want to see a good level of competition, but it's hard to get a lot of teams on the same skill level, because I definitely do think the difficulty of getting, or the existence of people on that level is the hard part. You can definitely get a lot of players. I don't think the player base is so low that you can't get several teams of 15, but the people who can perform at the top level, and not only that, you have CB is a game that not only individual skill level is important, but teamwork is doubly important. I would say team cohesion or teamwork makes up more than half of the skill of the player. Well, I mean, like, the strength of a team is more than half the teamwork between players rather than the strength of individual players. So you get some individual players that are really good as well, but without that coordination, you could end up seeing a lot of you could definitely see a lack of, well, a major difference between other teams that have a lack of teamwork and those that have really good teamwork. And obviously strategy comes into teamwork as well. Strategy is another thing where it's not really based on the skill of the player, but rather the setup. So it's the knowledge. It's the predictions. It's all a bunch of skills, all mixed into one. And this is why I love CB, because sometimes when you're trying to predict things just from the looks of things, you can get proven completely wrong. I definitely do think that the cavalry was quite ineffective for TNK, which was surprising, but the cavalry coming out from SVS was pretty impressive, considering that both sides didn't actually overuse the number of cavalry and didn't actually exactly wipe the floor with them. I definitely do think the struggle for SVS to use their cavalry correctly was strange. There were a lot of situations where their Daggerrack Lancers should have easily just wiped out just the couple of ISGs that were just standing around, but that's not what happened. So I'm very confused on those situations of why. My perception is a lot of Daggerrack Lancers just barreling right through units and just murdering everyone. So it does look like it's another 14v15. Again, technically there used to be a rule where you had to have 15 players or you would forfeit the match. But I think there is a sportsmanship aspect, and they kind of lax the rule a bit. Or maybe they just haven't enforced it. So just an agreement whether or not to play with 15v14. One unit advantage, one player advantage right now be super can be super advantageous, but I think TNK right now needs all the help they can get. Not going to be very. Yeah, people in the background are talking about politics right now, but we got the battle beginning right now. Ah, heated talks. Heated talks about politics. Um, I am kind of shitting on TNK a lot right now, mainly because SVS is only a 14-man team right now, and they are definitely, definitely, definitely stronger than TNK, and surprisingly, how much stronger comes in the form of their own teamwork rather than their individual players. And this is kind of like what I love to see between the players that are good and the players that are bad. I get that, but when you get teams that are good against teams that are bad, the setup, the unit composition, and definitely the commitment from each of the members can make a huge of a difference. I do have to say though that TNK and SBS both kind of have a over how to say they use a lot of heavy armor. Um, maybe I didn't see this before, but maybe I'm seeing this now. I did think that even with SVS with major advantage against TNK in the first round, I didn't really see very much hero killing as much as I thought I did. So this is probably what I. So this is probably where I think I have to go back to the level at which both SVS and TNK are, because the aspect that is more important when it comes to players of similar skill is the teamwork. And I'm guessing TNK probably what's happening is TNK has pretty bad teamwork, pretty okay level of players. So a lot of heavy armor players don't really have to struggle that much, but they don't really achieve that much. So they're in the middle of the road. They definitely know what to do, and definitely, well, say that they definitely look like they know what they want to do. But when the going gets tough, it just the difficulty of each individual player to really make an impact on that unit battle is still to be seen. We do see another men-at-arms here. It's very interesting to see men-at-arms out on the field. I think that has to do with the SVS probably having some newer players on board. We do get to see a good array of units as well. Cavalry is still very important. Front gate does get broken down. Clearing the front gate is always very important. Getting that open is massively important. We've seen quite a few matches where that front gate has not been destroyed, and it really hampers the assault for the attackers. Unable to get through the front gate leads to their reinforcements struggling to reinforce that main point. I do remember that the actual control unit is inside the gate, so taking over the wall doesn't open up that front gate. Destroying it is much better. Which, in my opinion, I think the placement of this is absolutely amazing. I do think having the front gate being controlled up on top of the wall is not terrible, but also also not design-wise not very good. You can definitely get some really cool strategies come out when you have variable placement. And it would be really funny if like it would be really funny if it was just like you have the gatehouse here, and then you had a secondary room inside the gatehouse controlling the controlling the gate. But I mean, like getting the battering ram to the front gate is quite easy. So the direction of the front gate is not terribly difficult. So not taking the wall here, but being pretty aggressive on the hero front. TNK is not taking those fights, which is very interesting. Yet, you can't jump over that, unfortunately. Woo! He survived! Yeah. What? That made no sense to me. That made no sense to me. What was that? Does take the back. Again, camels are very tanky, but against that numbers, there's no way. That's really weird. Is it because everyone was trying to go here and he just went through here? It looks like he just jumped over it. Maybe the hitbox is a little bit weird on that. Open up the back, which is... No one's dead, that's the thing. So respawn, the spawn camp wouldn't work out. Ballista down the center here. This is gonna hurt. Let's see if he kills anyone. Definitely think he's trying to. I want to see if there's ballista shot just come in. Whoa! Goes straight through the center. Didn't actually kill very many. Alright. I hate seeing this, but let's see where they go. Because depending on which angle they're aiming for, could backfire really easily. Going from the front will backfire massively, unless you're looking for a respawn. And the only reason that you would go this direction is that if people are already on this direction and ready to go through the front gate. That is like the complete collapse of this frontal section, so you just have to battle inch for inch here. But that's not a really smart thing to do either. Enemies is set up. This is where your shield guys. You have Imperial Spears. Like, I hate this. Like, they put spears down in front, just tanking damage. But why? If you have range units, send in your shields first. Because, like, I don't understand why so many people put their, like, camels are great and all, but, and they'll definitely beat these, definitely beat those men-at-arms really easily, but they walk straight into hell there. I would just stop the attack at the supply point immediately, go straight down through the center. TNK taking a heavy L. Half of their forces go through the center, half of their forces taking this fight here. The Imperial Spear Guard at the front trying to do some work. We got the Flamers instantly on by Choco. Choco is probably going to die here, and he does. Not very surprising that there at all. Kind of like a rotation here, doing very well, keeping the Fortratio secured and having the shields just kind of hold the front. Though, not being too aggressive with the shield does backfire quite a bit. Camels burning up. Will just straight up die to the burn damage, I think. So, the attack has failed, so secondary reinforcements should come in shortly. Holding strong, holding strong. We've got some Dagrak Lancer trying to come in from behind. Not really coming in through the front gate, more or less, I think. I'm very surprised at how far those Halberdiers actually got through. Because they actually made it to kill a couple of these guys. But I think it's because of the direction these Water Rushers were facing. Probably something that backfires quite frequently is the direction. I do know that Fort Russians really struggle against really fast cavalry if they're not facing the direction they're coming from. Even slight angles. Winged Hussars and the Yanyana cavalry are great examples of angles can change the outcome massively. Really need to put that higher. Getting pushed out from a back attack, not a surprise. Again, you have a supply point, easily able to get reinforcements just funneling through. I just don't believe that SVS really had a hard showing there. They kind of threw in a lot of their shield units, had their pike units in the back. Really good setup. Just let the shield units just soak up the damage and just bleed through. Just let them bleed for time. Attrition for range units, especially like artillery as well. It's just kind of the thing that's happening here. Imperial Spear Guard's the only thing that's able to withstand on the front line right now, probably from all of the protections they get. But I also think that Imperial Spear Guard are too tanky as it is. Not to mention how much damage they do now with Cover Commander. They're getting really competitive in terms of damage, but that's only in comparison to other shields. Still quite lacking in alternatives to heavy shields. I don't think a tier 5 Imperial Spear Guard will be possible at this rate, considering how stacked a tier 4 version of it is. Now, this could be really good. A slow creep from these guys, get more and more pressure build up, break through that front gate, takes the back supply and spread out through the back. Could whoa, straight on into the fight. Daggerite Lancers straight into United Charge now, sweeps out a Shield Maiden completely. Unable to kill the monks though, so no surprise there. Cavalry coming in from the front. Very good actually. This is what I like to see, a two-pronged attack, but now it is a straight-on battle. This is where SVS can turn it and definitely hold, but they are slowly losing troops. Now, TNK needs to spread out across this front section, and they're doing an amazing job. Right now, the cavalry is trying to make a break through it, but the infantry is just not catching up. Right now, the infantry really needs to push up and push all the way in, isolating these main sections. We got them down here on the left-hand side, but the right-hand side is a bit open. But we got some. Oh man, these right up against the side. These guys are tough, and he's retreating them. Better off just letting them fight to the death, as they are surrounded and stuck in it. Not easy to kill though. Definitely taking a while for the stalwarts to die. Straight on to the base point. Excellently done. Causing a massive retreat by SVS. Now that is how you pull off an attack from the front like that. You definitely caused a little bit of mayhem on the left. That left is very powerful. So big mistake coming out from SVS there to getting caught off guard. But nevertheless, I do think that would have been a hard battle, even if they were prepared. We could see some. We could now see a massive struggle to get in to this next section. I do believe TNK getting this leg up does mean that they are roughly. Whoa! Take that back. Probably the first loss was a bit heavy, a bit too heavy. Maybe they dragged back a little bit. I wasn't really watching. But they need to drag back probably 80 or so. Ooh, yeah. No more than that. That's like 130. They need to drag back 130 units. Man, and we don't know how many small units they have. That's still a big difference. But artillery does come in handy. Now, it's up to SVS to really survive the onslaught of the artillery, and this will prove to be a challenge for TNK to set up. Because I think SVS doesn't want them to come in through any other directions much. This double Ratio section is quite intriguing. I definitely think no overseeing hero could actually just see a shield unit just walk up on here, smack them, and just push on through. But the placements are kind of nice, keeping the cavalry isolated. I don't think coming up through here is impossible for TNK. It does look like they're kind of trying to see some other avenues in. Some mortars onto the supply point is doing some work. And interestingly enough, this is a snow mortar, so it causes a slow instead of fire. You don't get very many of those. So yeah, definitely think that the Imperial Spear Guard would just walk straight up onto this. I would definitely just walk straight into that Forte Braccio does walk back. Having the monks go into that is kind of silly because the monks will just get killed. And the back line, again, going through the back line, TNK makes the smart move, fight where the enemy is not prepared. And this is probably the weakest side. Not only that, they lock up the unit advantage for the defenders. So they're in it to win it. Like, TNK is in it to win it. Definitely going to be hard pressed, but they need to start getting a move on as they're fighting on two fronts, but so is SVS. SVS really needs to win before the second pile gets through, but they're struggling too hard right now to even stay on the point. Now, it will be interesting to see where these dagger lances go straight through the center. Again, the Imperial Spear Guard's surviving, but everything else is kind of dying around them. So, really not fun when you're getting out-muscled like this. Now coming in, cleared out the back section. I'm not even sure what was in the back here, but getting cleared out. Not surprised here, but TNK definitely did muscle out SVS. I do think that extra hero by the end of that was super important. But I have to give it to TNK to really prove that coming in with some more open strategies or more unique strategies definitely put SVS on the back foot, unable to hold. Very doubtful those heroes can hold for a minute and a half. It does look like the Maul gets knocked off by accident. His horse died. But we do get a field battle, which is quite great. But it would also just mean that SVS has an even bigger challenge. So definitely did see a big loss from the attackers in the first one, taking a very stock standard approach, going straight for the supply point. Now the second attack was even because we knew that once they cleared out the front section, it would just be a straight-on battle. Having 15 people here in this case means that you had more people in general and one out. So a kind of an equal trade there, probably a little bit too much losses for the defenders. And then finally, for the final point, focusing on that right-hand side, waiting for them to come through the closest section, instead going all the way around. I think SVS got caught out twice. And I think they were reeling from the shock of the base point being half capped by that longsword. So definitely a really good performance out from TNK. Got some great strategies come in, and completely surrounding their enemies get them a big leg up on the fight. It was surprising that SVS destroyed them in the, well, not destroyed, but crept up on TNK in the first round and attritioned them out. So TNK running into battle one by one led them to lose in the end. This time, I think, in a straight-on fight, SVS really showing that they need that extra player to stand their ground, and getting out-muscled by TNK in very advantageous positions, especially with the positions of the defenders not being prepared for that kind of assault. It will be very interesting to see how a 15v14 battle works out for Grassland Assault. Grassland Assault, one of my favorite changes from Emerald River. One of the hated Emerald River. God, it was so boring because of how it was so boring. It was because Emerald River is huge. Not only huge, it was a funnel. You don't have very much space to move around, and every time you fought the enemy, it was either in a crevice, on a lane, so you're on a bridge, or you've turned a corner. And also it was up and down, like up and down, up and down. There were very few places where you would engage infantry that wasn't just on the flat plane, that bridge towards the B point, or any of the corners. The corners were terrible for infantry as well. They would easily get flanked by cavalry because there was just enough space, but there was also weird elevation issues for pikemen, so there were several flat ground, which was really good for range, but it was also really good for cavalry. Really good for pikemen to sit, but they were completely exposed. Range as well was very important because archers sitting on those cliffs could just shoot straight at the B point. Unfortunately, couldn't shoot straight at each other. It's a bit too far, but it would have been cool if something like that did happen. That's why I like Creek. That's why I like Creek a little bit, because you have archers shooting back at each other on that one. If you open Siege Shop, you can buy Siege Ballistas forever, cash rules. To be fair, 3 death only with 3 arties for attack. Like, no way you can lose attack on maps like this. Just farm the heroes. I know, right? I know, right? Like, you have 3 artillery. That's insanity. You have so much power in artillery. Like, as attackers, if I was attackers, I would literally just bring all shield units. I would bring cannon fodder units. I would bring units that are just like, I would, like, definitely bring in high number units. Like, it wouldn't even be a question of, can this unit survive? Is this unit fast? It would just literally just be Fort Brachio's, disperse formation, let me put my artillery down, and I'll just shoot the enemy to death. Imperial Spear Guards are great. They are very tanky. The only problem is that, like, you could use, like, a dozen other shield units to do the exact same thing. I would bring, like, Imperial Spear Guard. I would even bring shit. I would even bring trash. I would bring units just to soak up the artillery fire. Something like Spear Militia, or even just regular serfs and the Metallatories. Just, like, this is the thing. No one does this properly, but no one screens for the more vulnerable units, and ISGs in particular don't do that properly, especially when they're rocking up onto the enemy. The pikemen just don't go, hold up, wait for the ISGs, or the ISGs don't move forward in order to block damage, and it's just so mental for me that people don't screen properly. Think about it like this as well. I stay with the thick of it when I'm running around with something like Javelin. Sometimes I even run to the front because I need to see a good view. And it's really good as well because I run around with the when I was running around with the tier 4 Javelin, sometimes I'd rock up onto a formation and they just immediately shoot me. I don't give a shit because my javelins have a shield. They can block a couple of shots as long as I'm facing them. So I throw javelins and I sometimes scare off the ranged units, and that is massive. That's a massive that's a massive victory for me. If I can throw javelins, even if they kill a couple of my guys, I take a lot of damage. But if I now clock out that ranged unit, even just for a few seconds, the guys behind me can easily go in. Not that anyone ever did, because they see shots flying and they just go, nah. I just think it's quite funny that people don't screen properly, and no, I'm watching the no, Obi-Wan, I'm watching DVD versus OPC. Well, I should have actually watched the OMG versus CCT, because I haven't actually seen either of those before. Ah, well, my bad. So obviously you can see a lot of tier 5 cavalry coming out for TNK, so they're not very used to the Daggerag Lancers, even though I think they are superior. Definitely seeing a lot from SVS as well. Not very surprising that you see Imperial Spear Guards out on the field. Imperial Spear Guards are completely lacking in my eyes. Still seeing the ISG. Those are very important, especially when you want to protect your infantry. I won't lie, though, that is only against other infantry. Once cavalry is out in force, an ISG is a literal punching bag. There is barely anything. There is barely anything that a ISG can do. Oh man. Yeah, Sicko. There were some really cool wall rocket placements. So TNK taking a very aggressive approach again. This backfired for them the last time, but this time they might be able to outmuscle them because it is one player down. No challenge at the B point. I think the challenge at the B point should have happened. The Winged Hussar takes a nice chunk out of the approaching enemy. But there is this hard stoppage for that A point. The B point reinforcements should come in soon. Medals get completely wiped out in a few seconds. Completely overwhelmed, mostly. We got Winged Hussar coming in on a weird downwards angle. Nope, here comes some Cataphracts. Could see a Cataphract come up behind them, but never mind. He goes straight for the supply point. Really good play there. Now, this is very difficult. The Chevaliers are actually doing real work here, but easily exposed on both sides. Rushing towards the base point. Whoa! TNK is super aggressive for this, and could actually see a complete cap because it's opened up for 90 seconds. And this is really going to be interesting because as long as someone locks up this point here, they're Gucci. I would definitely send some more people onto this supply point because this is going to see a spawn come through, and TNK, like this right now here, need to hold that A point. You hold that A point, you spawn there. Take up that supply point, you hold that. The Water Brushes are not in formation. We got some Winged Hussars finally coming through. We got some Daggerag Lancers coming through. That will make a massive mess of the thing. A triple cap comes through, and that is a done deal. TNK, super aggressive strategy, but it's just like the security for victory was just not there. I do think that pickup was huge, absolutely masterful. The only problem is now is you're about to lose that advantage very shortly. Camels just walk straight into the Fort Ratio, gets knocked out. Now they're rushing towards the C point. The defenders who were at C point rushing towards the base point as well backfired immensely. If as long as you held, if like this is again like why did the guys from C move? If you just held the C point, you would have been fine. You would have been fine even in this scenario. But now the turn is now. TNK just shoot themselves in the foot a second time. This field battle starts off really good for them, though. I love it, though. I love it. That was a great strategy. Unfortunately, the cleanup was not there. You could have kept feeding on the SVS players, out-muscling them. SVS needs to be a bit careful now, because if they lose that C point, they could actually... that's it. Actually, I didn't realize how fast that thing was ticking down. But yeah, that was, wow, very unfortunate. Really good though. Coming out super aggressive, losing a little bit too much on the approach there, and definitely not dealing with that Border Basher correctly. Kind of backfired really heavily at the end there. I do think that it would have been a much stronger performance from um, much stronger performance from TNK if they were able to secure the supply point. Even if they were to delay the supply point, it would look like they had a better setup for the back section, the second half of their strategy. The only problem here is that the guys from C also went to the base point, so the guys from B, seeing that they couldn't get base, went to the C point. Which was, they probably went to the C point anyway, but opening up the C point opening up towards the enemy was a big loss. And they needed to kind of hold the A point. A bit of back and forth here, so I think it could have been a super good strategy to keep pressure on that base point and see if they could have gone for a triple cap. So all inning for the base just backfired, and it's again TNK shooting themselves in the foot. Their strategy was really working out, but it's just the security of the strategy failing in a lot of places that really should be cleaned up if they were to perform their strategy again. I don't want them to stop doing that. I want them to improve doing that, because it worked out really well this time. But I mean, like, the very first time didn't work out very well. This time it worked out pretty well, maybe because of they were facing SVS this time instead of BLK. I just think that if you perfect that strategy, you can open yourselves up for a checkmate easily. But again, you have to rely on your team to not only catch up the enemy, but also gain the advantage. Because assuming that we are equal in force, a direct fight, especially when you're the attackers, a defender could easily out-attrition you. So you really need to get that train of supply taken out and put in your favor. You need to get your own supply in, you need to take out the enemy supply. And I don't think that TNK losing there was because of the strength of SVS. I think SVS won because TNK didn't know what to do if they were winning. Like, they were massively up. Like, TNK was massively up. They had a huge advantage when they were going through that base point. A little bit of losses, a little bit of losses as going towards the base point, but it was just a huge loss once once the once the units from SVS started to respawn. That's when it flipped. And the sad thing is that because it ended up in a triple cap, I'm pretty sure that TNK could have kept that slight advantage by the end of it. I mean, like, the advantage wasn't exactly slight. They had a good advantage coming out of their all-out attack, and I mean, again, it is a 14v15 that can trickle on to leading on to later on battles, but because the battle ended up so fast, TNK never got the opportunity to use some of their forces, or all of their forces, which would definitely easily outmuscle the SVS, but I mean, this is about security as well. Not to mention, I mean, TNK, like, super over aggressive here. They got the point. They should have seen the Fort Braccio, either choose to take out the Fort Braccio or get the heck out. And again, just I'm believing that TNK doesn't know what to do once they get to, or they have that single track mine. They tunnel vision so hard for their goal in the field battle, that is, that they kind of lose the bigger picture. Very slight advantages going towards SVS turns into landslide victories. Yeah, sorry, Obi-Wan Kenobi. The OMG versus CCT. I'll be honest with you. I should have signed up for that one instead of the DVD versus OPC, because I'm pretty sure DVD was one of the weaker teams I was talking about. OMG and CCT are ones that I haven't watched. I mean, the strongest teams so far, I think, out of the matches that I've seen, um, it's hard to say with the new setup, but BODS does look like to be one of the strongest teams um, in this Alice Legion League. I do think I really need to watch some of the other battles to see if ECL or CBL. Uh, I mean, I love to see some. We like big gates, so WLBG is also another team that I keep my eyes on. Rest of them, so far hasn't really intrigued me that much. I tried to see as many teams as I try to see as many teams as possible to make sure that I get a good variety on what kind of skill level everyone is at. That being said, again, we're seeing a very common unit selection. Fortebraccios being basically the mainstay, nearly everyone bringing the Fortebraccios, but OPC bringing in the Halberdiers is quite interesting, mainly because Halberdiers have not really shown to be. I did not notice that. One of them must have DC'd. Because I thought it was a 15v15 before we started. Could be wrong here. OPC is down one player right now. Could see him reconnect just before the battle starts. Hopefully so. Also, that being said, just taking a look at OPC having a lot of heavy armor and DVD having a lot of pikes and spears does lead me to believe that DVD is straight up a better team. So, I'm gonna be honest with you, I am quite biased though. On Frontier, medium armor classes, especially in the tournament setting, than normally perform better than either light or heavy armor classes. So they're doing something, and that something shows off in the long run from victories. And I do think that OPC has 15 players, so that's good. I think OPC here is concentrating more on the hero play, and I'd love it if they do come out on top, but Halberdiers are a very odd unit right now. They get superseded by the Fortebraccio. Fortebraccio able to brace on the spot, and I know that you can brace on the spot with Halberdiers, but here's the difference. Halberdiers do around about the same amount of damage as Fortebraccios if they just brace. In Phalanx, they do twice as much damage. Instead of doing 1200 damage, they do 2300 damage. Again, they hit 2 targets with brace, but so do Fortebraccios. Fortebraccios do around about 1200 damage, more closer to 11 or 1300 damage. It depends on what they're hitting, but 1100 damage is kind of the normal. But I mean, I gotta say, Fortebraccios are superior to Halberdiers quite massively in terms of numbers. They have 32 instead of 24. Halberdier Sergeants, sorry. Regular Halberdiers are, again, tier 3. Massively down in armor, massively down in health. Fortebraccios actually have slightly more health than Halberdiers, so that is a big pain point for me. I think Halberdiers should get more health, some more health, to allow them to beat Fortebraccios in terms of raw health. And I definitely do think that the amount of armor difference needs to be more pronounced. Halberdiers only have 24 units, meaning that they need to make up for the remaining 8. Statistically, Halberdiers actually do output more damage by around about 50%, but that is not important when the number of halberds hitting targets is much lower, considering how wide the phalanx formation is. You consider how even just a veritable formation, the length of the pike here becomes a almost unlimited, or not unlimited, but like uncalculable advantage. Now, good spread out position for the Fortebraccio. Again, spread them out, let them take damage, don't put them in a dense formation, they'll just get killed slowly. They'll get killed really quickly. You want to get them killed slowly, and keep them moving. Another good strategy is to have some nice juicy piles of shield units and have them move around. People loves to tunnel vision on these kinds of units, and if you move them around, people will go for them instead of the important things like these mortars. I do love that OPC has kind of opened up the entire wall here. Very stock standard for kind of a siege battle. Front gate being destroyed. I think they just didn't destroy it with a battering ram, surprisingly enough. Only 2 coconuts. 2 coconuts. 1 coconut. Huh. Interestingly enough, I do think we're gonna see a very lower. OPC is going to. Very interesting. OPC is going with raw numbers here. If they can get the Halberdiers to really pop off, I think they're going to win in the long run. Now, here's the big problem for them though. They need to get the Halberdiers, and they need to take out the enemy Fortebraccios. As long as they can take out the enemy Fortebraccios, I think they can deal with basically everything else. The only problem, well, other problems would probably be the Shenjis. Any ranged units will be a big problem for OPC. But as long as they have those overlapping phalanxes, I hope to God that Halberdiers can hold their ground. Unfortunately, I have been proven wrong about Halberdiers lately, about being good anti-cavalry, so that could bite me in the foot there. I do think that Halberdiers not being good against cavalry is kind of stupid, considering that Imperial Pike Guard is also really shit against cavalry. The only really good unit against cavalry is the Fortebraccio. And don't even start on the Medalls. The Medalls are trash. Medalls have a huge amount of damage resistance. They won't die instantly, but they won't kill anything either. Classically, the Medalls just stun lock the cavalry, but if there's two cavalries, normally if there's two cavalries, the Medalls will basically die. If they don't die from two cavalries, a third one should clean them up. And if a third one doesn't clean them up, well, it just keeps escalating, doesn't it? I'm pretty sure that two cavalries already put the Medalls into critical. Like, even in the best of scenarios where they're coming from the front and the Medalls are in a good formation, a dense formation, maybe even a dispersed formation might be even better, because the high hit limit would backfire. Would backfire on the Medalls in a dense formation. In a denser formation, they'd probably kill more cavalry. In a wider formation, they'll stop more cavalry. So that could be a thing. So a wider formation allows them to stop more cavalry. A denser formation allows them to kill more cavalry. So depending on how you want to do that. I do think killing the cavalry is much more important than just stopping them. But stopping them is always great. Protects things behind you. Nice dodge, though. I guess it was kind of predicted, as you can... Sometimes you can see the grenades just thrown over. A lot of artillery has been used, but surprisingly not very much impact on the unit score. I also now realize that because of the large number of units from OPC, the defenders are going to probably bleed out of artillery really fast because of that. Now, this is one of the safest pushes that you probably will see. Now, the only problem here is that you keep this back line, you have to win this front section, but the monks here has already started off and... Whoa! Alright, you're off to a really bad start as their entire platform is literally melting. We got some shield maidens coming up in the back, and that is going to be really terrible. Now, although I don't know how this ended up worse than a right-hand push, but going all in from one direction does backfire really easily. Really easily just backfires. And that was fast, how quickly a team of 15 people just collapsed into oblivion. 300 units died in a blink of an eye in less than 30 seconds. Maybe a little bit longer than 30 seconds, but that was... Jesus. Like, War Rocket, Flaming Comet, War Rocket. Oh wait. 2 War Rockets, Flaming Comet, 1 Divine Crow, another War Rocket, Divine Crow, Flaming Comet. My goodness, man. The absolute destruction there on the ground. Then again, 11 artillery has been used. For what it's worth, a blue culverin. There's artillery is right in front of you, and you decide to miss somehow. Are you aiming too high? You can destroy these though, but that's why would you destroy those? Those are really beneficial for you, the attackers, not for the defenders. The hiding behind these platforms are actually pretty shit. Oh, great. Small things like these. Small things like that. Those heroes could have been caught out. Unfortunately, they do not. Like, people are just not very good with their tails. Like, they have a bunch of heroes just get killed out. DVD loses a couple of guys in the back line here, so that's very unfortunate. Can't get through that barricade, so I'm not sure what you're thinking. So, taking the same approach, even though you know there's a shit ton of artillery up here, and a bunch of fresh dead bodies already instantly made. Like, there is other siege towers, my dude. Did you just treb yourself? Where are they trebbing? Like, that's also a good thing, another thing as well. They can treb that. Now, this is good if the front attacks now. The front has to attack now, but they're gonna be late. Right now, they're getting this section needs to be careful because they have to fight a battle on two fronts, and their front line is nowhere to be seen just yet. So this is a timing issue. This is a timing issue, but they're doing really great right now. Central line is holding. Front line finally gets there, takes a massive hit by another war rocket. Where are you firing from? Holy Jesus! He is firing from the wall here. Two good smacks onto that Borrachio. Gets the A point, but the center, the main push is completely overrun right now, and you barely got victory here in the front line.
Child's play.
The pressure just was not strong enough, and not only that, you were like timing. I would have told these guys to wait. I would have told these guys in the center to wait, because the front was not ready. The front was not ready. They were not in position to go in. If anything, I mean, the side with the more players needs to always go first. That's all like a guarantee. But at the same time, if you want a quick victory, sending in one person to distract the enemy and then collapsing their back line would be a great strategy.
A walk in the park.
The fact that cavalry, like this V shape here, they actually got far enough in that they actually did damage to the Borrachio. Just oh man. Like here in the first battle they actually did well. But fighting a battle on two fronts, here's the thing. They did not time that well. That was not timed very well at all. And they should be on communication. They should be communicating with each other. We're not ready. We're not in position. We'll get there in 30 seconds. The center line already pushed. That means they have everyone on them. The front line took too long. 30 seconds away. They got hit by artillery. They got hit by artillery again. And that is the worst. Sometimes it can't be helped, but getting hit by the artillery wasn't too bad. They didn't even fight anyone as they were coming down. They didn't even fight anyone by the time they took over the A point. And that's one of the tragedies of a split push, because the defenders did the smart thing. They abandoned the A point, took out the main force, and dealt with the stragglers. in a lot of situations, the stragglers will distract the main force of the defenders, and then the back line gets completely overrun because when the defenders' eyes are on a main force, they tunnel vision on it, and their back line normally gets beaten very quickly. But this, like the main force taking aggro is not a bad strategy as well. It just means that means the secondary force needed to be very aggressive in order to gain victory. But they weren't really set up for that either. So I definitely think that it would have been a better idea to let the smaller force attack first and then have the main force go in second. This way they put a lot more pressure on um, the front line to finish them. But since they were a holding force, they would have definitely outperformed their duties and definitely held for long enough for the main force to really gain a good upper hand. Timing issue, OPC. You could have done really well there. You did a really good job, but DVD, my god, absolute killer arty there. I've never seen an entire army disappear as fast as just now. That was so fast. Because I've seen fights go on for a really long time, but my goodness. 3 war rockets, 2 flaming comets, 2 divine crows. Man, I would be feeling pain if I saw that many artillery aimed at me, and if I watched that many units die that quickly, I would definitely be disheartened. I would be demoralized after a punishing assault like that. Hey, I walk into Arty all the time. I get shotgunned by a grape shot at the front all the time. But if I walked into that hellstorm of war rockets, flaming comets, and divine crows, I would have just stood there and accepted death, even though the explosion probably would do very little damage to me. As a hero, you don't really take a lot of damage since you have a lot of health. But for low health units, explosion damage is a killer, and there was so much fire. Divine Crows has fire, War Rocket has fire. Even if you survive the explosion, good luck surviving the burn. It was wonderful to see. I just don't think anyone would love to experience that again, and it'll get very boring if a lot of teams just get annihilated like that, because it's just perceived as just like it's a complete victory. That's what it is. I don't even think, besides the 2 monks they sent in, I don't even think the defenders lost anything there. DVD. Adi makes a huge difference. Definitely think. I definitely think that DVD's using some high tier Arty to blast the enemy into smithereens is the point of these, but OPC is going to probably really struggle surviving an attack from DVD, because I definitely do think they're a little bit more aggressive with their artillery selection, considering most of them are war rockets versus these guys who also have divine crows, probably some war rockets as well. Lots of divine crows, actually. Not gonna lie, I just hope that because of all the pikemen from OPC, they don't get overrun by cavalry. But I wouldn't be surprised either if they do end up getting overrun by cavalry. Not very much cavalry from OPC, so they're not going to be able to respond to a lot of heavy infantry pile. Not that they would need to, since you would be more worried about cavalry anyway, and a bunch of Vodorastios is just really difficult to beat anyway. You lose too many units just walking into them. And I don't think anyone would sacrifice their unit in order to attack a Porto Braccio, and even though you would lose, let's put it this way. A shield maiden can easily just walk up to a fortibratio and kill the whole unit. You might take damage, you might take a lot of damage, and you might lose a couple of guys. There is no reason not to take that trade, because you still killed an entire fortibratio when your shield maidens basically took minimal damage. Minimal damage as in, like, they took damage, they didn't die, or a couple of few people died, so it's a bit of a trade. But the trade is in your favor, like massively in your favor. Shield maidens are not completely clocked out either, so you can heal them up, you can either continue fighting with them, but in the end, it's just like, I don't understand the lack of initiative from the ISGs in particular. Nothing can damage you sufficiently. Besides a halberdier unit, nothing can damage you sufficiently in the infantry pile, because halberdiers are basically the only things you should be fearing. Stalwarts, you can actually beat stalwarts just by walking into them. Water brushers don't deal enough damage to actually kill them. Even with 32, again, like, halberdiers produce 50% more damage than fortibratios, so unless you're walking into, like, 3 fortibratios, well, actually, just 2. You know, unless you're walking into 2 fortibratios, you can basically just roll up on them and kill them. So again, taking the right-hand side, I do think that the right-hand side is a little bit more free because they actually get inside, other than the left-hand side, which is fairly constricted since you only control this this roundabout section when you get in. Not that, I mean, like, that's not important. Again, you have access to the supply point and the A point. The right-hand side get access to the supply point, but it gets harder and harder to make a good maneuver when you get to this main road. This main road consisting has only 3 entrances. A really good defender will probably hover this section here and have a token force surrounding the A point. So if they come in through the center here, they get surrounded. If they come in through the back here, they take a hard fight with resupply. If they go for the supply, I'd cut them. I would cut them off here and have this guy rock up onto the supply point. But that's a really this one when they go for the supply here, you have to be either ready for them. So if they go through the back section, I'd probably move. I'd probably move to the supply point, make an S shape. Interesting usage of a couple of the mortars here. A lot of the trees makes this very difficult, and the placement as well makes me very skeptical. Did one of the heroes die for the medals? The medals are retreating towards the enemy. That could be a really unfortunate pickup for... Yeah, he died. Just should have let the enemy just walk in. Unfortunately, not very many kills, so that's unfortunate. I would normally try to walk my unit. So you would cover, so you would select a particular person and double tap C to make them follow that person. And then when they're at a sufficient location, you just retreat them. But coordination like that doesn't take too much. So again, here, good maneuver But I would go through the center now, instead of fighting for the supply point here. You could just have an extended fight, but I would definitely think that the attackers are kind of in a corner now. They're getting pushed back. OPC doing really well with their own war rockets. No token force defending the A point, so that's very sad. If they take out this war rocket, they take out this flaming comet and this thing. Ooh, flaming war rocket in the backpack. Does get taken out really easily. Does look like the war rockets are trained to get them. They did have a token force, but trying to roll up onto the Forbrachos? Question mark? I'm not sure what happened there. They kind of just tried to charge the Forbracho and just walked away. The Nodachi should have kept going. They could have killed the Forbracho even if they were not going for the artillery there. A bit too aggressive. The stalwarts are out of position now. Both sides taking some heavy losses, but I do think that the advantage is in play for OPC to pull out some nice cavalry, anti-cavalry units to shore up their sides. But now they're bringing out some camels as well. Now they have to be a bit fast here, as they're kind of getting wrecked here on the A point. If the A point does get taken, they might gonna be hard pressed. Nope, need to brace this back section. Straight onto the A point, really good, but again, you gotta be careful. Forbrachio is out in an array, does work out. Imperial Spear Guard, taking the blows, but really should just get onto that Forbrachio and get a complete secure. Nevertheless, this is a good setup right now. Unfortunately, no backup. The Imperial Spear Guard just walking straight through. Cavalry might come in from behind. Cavalry does... Whoa! Forbrachio at the front finally gets destroyed by just all of cavalry. But DBD taking super heavy losses, as so is the Forbrachio piles from OPC. Unable to sustain just the number of attacks from cavalry coming from all sides. The tier 5 losses, it outweighs the number of tier 4s that they had advantage. Now, a third wave of defenders is going to come through. Now this is the halberdiers' time to shine. Leftover cavalry with Forbrachos could work out. This trap could hurt a lot. Forbrachos hold strong! They do well, they do well. That was not a united charge, it was a regular charge, so I do think a regular charge would not be very effective against a halberdier. But that's nice come through. And good job. I wasn't keeping count on how many heroes died, but definitely think that both sides taking some losses there. Easily outmuscles the halberdiers very easily, and not to mention the stomach brace. That siege ballista could see another dead hero in a few seconds. I was very surprised at how much of a difference those tier 5 cavalries did, and not to mention they still have quite a bit of tier 5 left. The unit advantage is non-existent now. The tier 5 definitely made up more than enough for their numbers, but cavalry versus infantry wise, I think was probably the main issue. So those cavalry needed to get twice as many kills anyway, in order to make themselves actually worth it. It will be strange to see a pike militia. Let's see if... Should... One guy is completely out of units. One guy has 4 units? What is wrong with you? Everyone taking heavy losses except this one guy. He's probably the guy that's just checking the supply point. Man, like, sometimes that happens. Like, you're that one guy with, like, all your units left, or you're that one guy that loses your entire unit immediately. Now, here, where it becomes even more difficult, as resources for the attackers becomes insurmountable as the defenders run out of artillery, and I mean run out. There's only 3 artillery left, while the attackers have 23 artillery left. And I'm gonna be honest here, they have to avoid and strike any artillery positions that they decide to take. And this is a back section push, exactly the same as what they faced before. But in this scenario, just flipping over might not be the way to go. Now, you could see the Wing Stars there in the far back. Some cavalry at the front there. No, Fortebrasher is actually there, able to hold back. I do think the Fortebrasher should have been a bit spread out. Really need to kill that monk as well. The center section here is not getting pressured by anything in the back right now. Ooh, some Fenris might do a little bit of a good job, but that collapse of the A defenses was inevitable because the amount of artillery left for the defenders was very minimal, and the attacks from what a sacrifice though. I wouldn't have done that. Mainly because you probably still have a shot. You'll still probably have a shot for the final point. You've got a couple of units left. You just need a good fight. Most of the artillery has been used, and right now they'll probably have to resupply. I would have just stampeded. Just stampede. You should have just stampeded right there. Could have got a couple of kills. OPC's collapse of the line is probably what's backfiring here right now. I think he just got skewered there by the... I love my Monastic Knights, but Monastic Knights are absolutely horrible. OPC is making a rush towards it. A little bit of a trickle in for DVD. DVD put in some grape shots down, and if I was the defenders, this is where I would just go for the artillery, because the artillery is probably the one thing that will actually make sure they win. The Iron Reapers, not something I would expect to see in the tournament. Did see them here, but the Winged Hussar surprisingly gets killed by the Halberdiers, which I think is kind of both weird and fair. Need to kill those artillery right now. You have a lot of units here, but they're going to disappear very quickly if those artillery keeps firing. And both sides are trickling down to bare minimum, but the heroes from DVD are shining, and I expected this from the beginning. OPC did have a lot of heavy armor, so they survived for a long time, but the kill power is too low. So, as to be expected, did see a cleanup at the very end. I was very surprised that so many units were just thrown in here.
Our team is about to capture the final flag.
Sky on Blizzard can't shoot, I fucking
A walk in the park.
Oh man. Maybe he just didn't have it loaded. Sometimes you're just waiting for it to reload and you're just really annoyed that the guys are just walking in front of it. And sometimes when you even when you do fire, there's like no one there. That was quite enjoyable. I did think that OPC might have actually gotten the defense. Surprisingly not, though. I think the artillery difference was the key in the final battle for the A point. Getting surrounded and the artillery is firing on you. The main force just... It didn't disappear immediately, but you definitely saw holes being made very quickly, and it just got thinned out constantly, one after another. It got thinner and thinner and thinner until there was nothing left for the defenders. And I'm not gonna lie, I was hoping the defenders win, but the commitment for the artillery for the defense really showed itself this time. The artillery for the attack, OPC, quite lacking. DVD, obviously, strong showing with artillery, even on the attack, super strong showing. This gives me a little bit too much focus on artillery, though. A lot of the infantry stuff is kind of left to the wayside. I'm a little bit unfortunate to say that it is kind of what it is. Ruffles saying that monastics are strong. You guys are just haters. I love monastic lights, but I hate the fact that they're so weak. You think they're strong? Fine. They got a cool charge. It takes an entire second for them to actually start dealing damage. They have CC for that 1 second, but it's just like, come on, man. It's just not that good when you have something like Yan Down Cavalry just one-shotting them and doing the exact same thing. Like, so what if they're meta slave? Being meta slave is not a point, it is a problem. You don't want a game where everyone plays meta because it's because not only is it the optimal way to play, it's the only way to have fun. You want everyone to be able to use everything. Even if it's only slightly, I mean, you only want a slight difference between meta and the rest. If meta is twice as good, 3 times as good, 4 times as good, you have problems. Daggerek Lancers, every other Lance Cavalry compared to Monastic Knights is way better. I would even say Tundras are better than Monastic Knights because Tundras in Patrol is absolutely busted. I love Monastic Knights. I used to walk around with them and just let them skewer people, and that was fun because they used to do like 3,000 damage at high speeds, and it was just really funny. I think Monastic Knights deserve another ability to make them stronger in melee. Definitely think seeing them here, they're only good for a charge. I definitely think they're kind of a waste if you're going for a charge unit. Winged Assaras would have been way better. Winged Assaras is actually doing a really good job making a lot of those cycle charges through. And they held their cavalry back, which is really great. I think DVD was a bit disciplined. We got to see some Fenris as well, some excellent catch units. I think a little bit more flanking units would be cool, especially some of the low tier ones. Fenris are definitely a unit that we should see more of. Not only are they fast, because they'll mostly be flanking, they can avoid a lot of the artillery or let you get in onto the artillery. And I think that's what's going to be more important moving forward. Sitting there and getting shot is definitely not the best strategy, especially for the defenders. If you're just sitting there and taking it, you will lose, like, guaranteed. And that's what happened to OPC. Enough talk anyway, that is all for tonight. I was trying to hope that there was a field battle for the other one. Doesn't look like that happened. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Doesn't look like there's going to be any stream tomorrow since it is a TW night. But I'll see you guys on the Sunday, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Today, we did get to watch the TNK versus SVS. SVS winning on the field battle, very surprisingly. TNK just kind of shooting themselves in the foot there. And following up with that, we got DVD versus OPC. DVD just dominating with the artillery usage. OPC giving them a hard run for their money in the defense, but ultimately losing, unable to overcome that artillery difference. Again, by the time that the defenders ran out of artillery, the attackers, had almost 20 artillery still available to them. I think there was 23, in fact. But nevertheless, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Other than that, my name's Azakai. Have a nice day. Bye for now.